we've been speaking a lot about how there has been a history of compromise on the Jewish side.
Yeah.
Do you think, Palestinians raised today need to look at their history a little bit more?
Yeah, I think we all do. But yes, of course. Look, narrative is important. We all have our narratives, we all have our stories, and stories are important. They instill in us pride, and that is incredibly important. But even as Jews, I think, we're sitting here, we're looking back, and we're slowly starting to talk about things that we're not
that's what we've
necessarily proud of,
that's
right?
What we've done.
I mean, growing up, were most Jews raised that that Arabs were expelled or even fled? Most of us know one line and one line only, and that's it. No, the Arab leadership told them to leave in 1948. Yes, it's true, but there's a lot more to the story. But our narrative, to a certain extent, didn't allow that conversation yet.
Yeah.
Now it does.
Yeah.
And I think for the Palestinians, I think it's going to take just as much time, to look back on the hard parts of our history, self-reflection. It's the same in America. I wasn't raised talking about genocide, of the Native Americans or about slavery in the really brutal form that it took place in. I think a lot of countries have to get there. And yes, though, I think for Palestinians, I think there needs to be an education of both of us, right? For Israelis to understand what happened to Palestinians, to the Arabs of Palestine in 1948, and what that expulsion meant to them and felt like to them. And with the way that Arabs think, the Arab ideology of honor and shame, how much this plays a role. And then amongst them, I think the simple fact that Palestinians today could be raised not knowing that me as a Jew has a 3,000-year-old history in that land is a problem.
Yes.
Because then they will always see me as a foreign colonizer. And that's what I'm being called.
Yeah.
So yes, their history, but more importantly, my history, the same way that I need to be taught their history as an Israeli who needs to learn Palestinian history.
And what are things that you think Israelis need to hear more?
Again, the fact that we can't talk about the Nakba, right, which means the catastrophe, which is how they describe what happened to them in 1948.
Can Israelis, it's just a...
We're not taught this in schools.
It's an elephant in the room?
Yes.
Right.
And I think that's a problem. Why? There's a fear that if we were to talk about it, then we acknowledge that we did something wrong, right? I think it's a conversation that we need to be having. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so I would say, but on the other side, I would say we've gone a lot of steps forward in terms of talking about that history and the hard parts about our history. The Palestinians have a lot further to go, I think. Yes, learning about me, my history, that I didn't just come in and steal your land, but again, that means tackling the core of the narrative, and that is very hard to do. So we can talk about it very easily, but it's very challenging. But I think more importantly, it's looking towards the future. Every day a Palestinian is taught to hate me is another day we're not gonna have peace. Every day that martyrdom is celebrated, and when they say martyrdom, I'm gonna call it terrorism, and I'm gonna call it killing innocent people. Every day that that's celebrated is another day that we can't have peace. Every day that the Palestinian Authority gets away with paying terrorist salaries, which ultimately just encourages more terrorists, is another day that we're not going to have peace. So yes, education of the past, education of the present, and don't get me wrong, in Israel as well. I think we have to decide what is that future. But I think what most importantly needs to be taught across the board, on the most basic level, is we're here, they're here. Palestinians live here, Jews live here. And again, neither one of us has any intention of leaving.
Right.
So how are we going to solve this conflict? One state, two state, red state, blue state? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like, and I'm not here to talk about solutions.
To stay up to date with JTV content, click subscribe here if you're on YouTube and hit the alarm bell. And if you're on Facebook, hit the like button, and under following, click See First. If you enjoy watching JTV content and want to help us continue to grow, please consider making a donation to us by clicking here.